Welcome to Woodshop 101, a woodworking audio podcast geared toward the hobby weekend woodworker. Your hosts for the show are Jeremy Crawford and Drew Shore. Join these two different craftsmen for a lighthearted banter about everything woodworking, online education, and how they produce content. Topics could include the latest news, tips, tricks, and designs, to include furniture, crafts, and shop projects. All right, welcome to episode number 23. Today we're going to have a Q&A session with me, Jeremy, and you had the questions, I'll have your answers. All right, what's going on tonight, Drew?
Not a lot, man. Seems like we just got done talking. I don't understand.
Yeah, I don't either. We're going to go ahead and skip tonight's segment of what's going on in your shop because we are literally recording about 3 minutes after episode 22.
Yeah.
Why we're doing this is because we're finding it important to not miss a show. And we, coming into the holidays, you're actually going to be listening to this show, what do we say, Drew, somewhere around Monday after Christmas?
Yeah, it's like the Monday of New Year's week. So it's like the 27th or something like that.
Yeah, so it'd be on the 28th. You're going to be hearing this on the 28th, and that's if I decide not to get it out to you guys on Christmas Day. But we're recording early because we didn't want to miss that show, and which means we would actually be recording somewhere around the Christmas Eve or a day or two before, and we're just finding it hard to connect the closer we get with Christmas parties and all sorts of other stuff, shopping, all that stuff. So we're recording it early. So if you want to know what's happening in our shop right now or 2 weeks ago, then go listen to episode 22. All right. So let's just get in tonight's topic and get down to the questions.
All right. Sounds good to me. Well, we've got a few here, roughly about 6, that are probably going to be fairly long answers for you. So just be sure and take your time. It's fine by me. Let's see. These are actually from, we'll just start with the ones from me. My first question to you is, how many countries have you been in or visited in your military career?
I wish I had time to prepare for that question. To count, and I'm not sure I can even count that high. I want to say I've been to anywhere between 50 and 70 different countries. Why such a wide number of variation? Because there's so much that I've forgotten that I've gone to. Whether I've been there a day or not. And I generally only count countries that I've actually left the airport. And I've visited so many because of my last job. I traveled about 280 plus days a year, every year for 4 years, just traveling around the world and teaching law enforcement to partnering nations. And a lot of times I'd go to countries more than once. A lot of times I'd go one time and never go back. Good example is Liberia. I've been to Liberia 2 or 3 different times, and each time I was there for anywhere between 3 and 7 weeks. And then other times I've been to countries like Mauritius that I was there for 2 or 3 weeks, and that was the only time I was ever there. No, in fact, I was only in Mauritius, I think, 1 week, and I never even went back. So
saying that, have you been to these countries more than once?
No. Some of them yes, some of them no. Generally the fun places like Mexico, places like that I've only been to one time. Places in the middle of Africa, those are the ones I went to more than once. So, but, a lot of places, especially like Liberia that came out of a civil war just about, maybe about 12 years ago now. it was just completely different than any other country that I'd been to at the time. But going there, the people and the students that I had in my class, they made these trips for me. The experiences that I've had and the hospitality that they gave was just extremely great. And I mean, I wouldn't trade those experiences for the world. And for the last few years, man, I've really been toying with the fact of trying maybe writing an article a week or one every 2 weeks and kind of releasing it just about, maybe one particular trip or one particular thing that happened on a trip, just, kind of giving my experiences, kind of putting those out there and in writing so people can kind of read about them and they learn more about me and things that I've done. And a lot of them actually have to do with woodworking. Me not necessarily, definitely not me woodworking, but encountering woodworking from all around the world. I mean, I have things from carved jaguars to hand carved chess sets with like ivory inlays. I have wooden masks from I can't tell you how many different tribes throughout Africa. And so I've really been trying to determine if that's something that people would even be interested in reading. Because I mean, 4 years of experience of just, things that it's hard to talk about. It's hard to recall all the details. And I think by putting it in writing, for one, it's going to serve as a written place for me to remember these things later in life. Mm-hmm. But then it's going to hopefully open up other people's eyes as to what the rest of the world is actually like versus what the news and the media and other people say it's like.
Yeah, because sadly I haven't been out of the country except one time, so I'm not that well versed.
I mean, y'all tell me if that's something that you think y'all would be interested in reading about. I would definitely be up to putting an article out a couple times a month about different experiences and some of these different masks that are literally made from hand carved, what they mean or the experiences around getting some of these different woodworkings from other countries, because I have a lot and they're the one things that I will cherish more than anything else. Just because I know the person that made them, or I have the backstory. Like I didn't just go be the tourist and just buy stuff. Like I wanted to learn. Like if I'm buying this, whether I'm spending $1 American or $100 American, I want to know about it. Because I want to be able to tell people about those stories and where they come from. And a quick one right off the bat is I picked up a mask in Liberia, and it's pretty funny looking. It's like dark wood with white painted stripes on it, and it is a celebratory mask of a boy becoming a man. Basically, a boy is sent out kind of on like a walkabout. If you're from Australia, so it's kind of like a walkabout. But they basically send a boy out into the world, and they send him off to different schools, and they just fill this guy with knowledge. And then when he comes back, he's presented with this mask. And he has this huge ceremony. Everybody from the tribes and the villages come around, and they dance around the fires, and they just have a celebration. And he's presented to this mask. And once he receives that mask, he has now become a man. And so it's different things like that just really just flooded my mind. I mean, you just asking, I'm just having like a flood of different memories come that.
Even though you said it was hard to recall, it's starting to get there.
Yeah, I mean, once you start talking about it, and there's definitely been times that were not very good experiences at all. Especially when I've recalled places that my life have been threatened. I've been threatened to be blown up and stuff like that. But then you go to places like Liberia, or let's see, what one of my last trips was to the Maldives. And I couldn't ask for a better place. I spent 3 weeks scuba diving some of the world's best diving spots that people pay thousands and thousands of dollars to go do. So if that's
very cool,
takes your question and kind of sums it up.
In that. I definitely would be interested in something like that.
So
very cool.
Maybe it's something I can get working on those 2 weeks while I'm on vacation.
Hey, goals. Set them.
There you go.
All right. Well, very cool. That was an interesting answer, and I was very interested to know that myself. So, like I said, I would be interested to see those articles and to see pictures of those masks and all the other woodworking that you've accumulated. So,
believe it or not, I got all those masks in my shop. I got them in an old trunk of my grandfather's, and I got them all sitting in there, and I had them displayed at my house back in Virginia, and when we moved, I just never really displayed them again. But one day they will be displayed. I may display them in my shop. Why not?
There you go. Well, guys, if that's something that you are interested in, be sure and leave us comments on that, or just go to Jeremy's Countryside Workshop Facebook page and leave him some good feedback there, because that's something that would interest me as well. Okay, my next question to you, Jeremy, is growing up, did you ever take shop in school?
I don't know the right answer for this. What would your definition of shop be?
Well, in my instance, I took woodshop. That's all it was woodshop. There was no like ag or metal shop or anything like that. It was just plain woodshop. So, did you ever take woodshop growing up?
Well, I can tell you I didn't take woodshop.
Oh, okay. I am interested in the elaboration, though.
Would you consider home economics kind of shop?
Like home ec? Yeah.
Like I learned stuff too. Like I learned to cook and sew.
How many years did you do it?
I think I did it 1 or 2 years.
Oh, I got you beat. I did it 5.
Well, I took it in junior high. I don't remember home ec being in high school. I'm trying to think. I don't remember it being in high school. I took it in junior high. But yeah, in fact, I would have loved to take shop, but where we were at, all your technological skills were taken out of high schools. We had a separate high school. It was like a tech school that you could go learn to be a mechanic and woodwork and take like medical classes and stuff like that. But just up until recently, that school was considered, like, if you went to that tech school, that was considered like the problem child school. It was called the Career Center. And that was basically, you went to that school if you couldn't function and pass regular secondary high school. And I'm glad that recently changed. It recently changed, and students back home in the Ector County Independent School District now have the option to go to either one of the 2 traditional high schools or go to the Career Center, which they changed the name, and I don't even remember what they changed it to. But they can go to that school to learn the tech skills, because those students may not desire to go to college, and so they want to get somewhere where they're going to learn hands-on skills like air conditioning and things like that. So, yeah, no, I didn't take a traditional shop class because I didn't have the option to do it, but I would have loved to. But I can cook you a mean omelet and sew you some underwear.
So if I came over for a visit, you would fix me up.
Oh yeah, I mean I do most
Breakfast
of
and
the
all.
cooking anyway, but yeah, I would hook you up.
Yeah, I took home ec for like 5 years too, and starting in junior high and just kind of finished out in high school. But uh, yeah, you'd be surprised what kind of stuff you would learn that would transfer into adulthood that you were super thankful for that you did it.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And that's one reason why I like the bandsaw and woodshop. If you remember on the previous episode, I said that the bandsaw was one of my favorites, and it's mainly because it kind of reminded me of the sewing machine because they were kind of both working in the same fashion. So yeah, that's kind of weird, but still. Okay, next question: who inspired you to be the man that you are today?
Um, I mean, I've had a lot of inspiration in my life to really become who I am today. I mean, I've had a lot of career mentors um, that have really kind of tailored me to where I am in my career. But I would say ultimately the person that stuck with me the longest up until I was a junior in high school was my grandmother. Um, she showed me the care and the compassion, no matter what the instance was. I mean, whether I was in trouble or not doing well in school, or I just needed somebody to listen to. My grandmother was always there. I mean, the lady she could bake. I mean, I've never met anybody that could bake or cook like she could. But I mean, you could call her and just tell her, hey, Mama, I want a cheesecake, strawberry cheesecake. You'd go over to her house the next afternoon, and she would already have it made for you. So just the passion that she put behind everything that she did, just kind of showed me like if you start something, if you really want to get interested into it, put 100% effort and put the passion behind it, and you can achieve just about anything. And so I would say my grandmother was the biggest pinnacle into who I am today.
Very cool.
So
I would never have pegged that answer though.
Yeah, in fact, she got into painting, and when I say she got into painting, I mean she painted very detailed, different, I guess, portraits or landscapes on various wood shapes that my grandfather would actually cut out. So, my grandfather was a good pinnacle into learning, I guess learning the technical skills, but then they made a great team. Like he built everything and she painted it. And I have some of her stuff now that she's painted, and I just look at it and I'm like, I don't even know where to begin. Like, how would I even begin to paint something like that? It was so detailed. In fact, I'll include some pictures in the show notes. I mean, it's insane how the detail painting she did.
So I guess you have some of these paintings?
Oh yeah, I have quite a few. In fact, I have a lot of the stuff my grandfather built, just like little jewelry boxes and knick-knack things in the shop in the cabinet. But I got several different things she's painted, and one of them is like a sunrise with a rooster on it, and it says "Have a cock-a-doodle day," and it's actually sitting above my cabinets in my kitchen. So yeah, I mean that's the one thing. Like when my grandfather passed away, because she passed away before my grandfather, I was adamant about getting was some of those paintings, just because I mean nobody else really knows the value behind them. She wasn't a famous painter, so they're not going to be worth a lot of money. So eventually they'll just make their way to the garbage. Well, I know stories behind them, and so my grandson or my great grandkids will know who their great grandmother was. So
very cool. Yeah, you need to treasure stuff like that. Okay. My next question is, what inspired you to want to be a woodworker?
I don't really know. Like, I would say the underlying inspiration definitely came from my grandfather. He was the only woodworker in our family. Um, he had a huge shop, and I remember saying in one of the past episodes that, I mean, he put Mark Spagnolo's shop to shame. I mean, it was definitely not as clean or had this fancy tools, but he had a maybe like a 20 by 30. I think it was about a 20 by 30 shop, 2 stories. So he had 20 by 30 on 2 different stories, and I mean he built everything. I mean, you call him up, and I remember calling him right as I got out of boot camp, and I needed a place to store my dress combo covers for my uniform, and so they wouldn't get dirty and smashed. Called him, and within a week he had me a case. But I never really took bit the woodworking bug and actually built things until probably about 2009. I think, 2009 I bought my first house. So it was probably 2009 or 2010 that I really got into woodworking, and I started by making crosses. But I would say the underlying inspiration was probably my grandfather, because I was always in the shop with him. In fact, I can tell you my first project I ever built by myself, or I guess woodworking related project. Me and my father found a picture in, I don't know, maybe one of the Lowe's Creative Ideas magazines or something, of a candy cane striped post, pretty much like a crossing sign for like Santa Claus and stuff like that. And so I bought some 1x4s or something, half lapped them together, because I already had the tools. I'd been acquiring the tools. I'd been asking because I was into the DIY, fixing up my own house. And so I used the table saw and the circular saw to create half laps, and I used 4-inch PVC and created these like crossing signs, that had my name on it, like Crawford's Crossing and then Reindeer or something. So that was my first project to ever do, I guess, into the woodworking related area. And then from there, that bug just grew.
Yeah, and since you said 2009, which is impressive, because if you guys have seen some of the work that Jeremy has done in the past, he's come a long way in just that short amount of time. So that's awesome. Let's see. My last question to you before we get to the next set is, what is your goal for your channel now?
My ultimate goal between now and January 1 of 2017 is to have 24 new videos out, which equates to about 2 videos a month. I don't really know how that's going to be defined, as in, is that going to be 24 short tip videos? Is they going to be full project videos? I don't know just yet, because there's some things I want to build that I'm not sure will actually get recorded, because I'm going to build a desk. I'm revamping my whole office space, and I'm going to build a desk starting in January. But I'm gonna model a design after Steve Ramsey's writing desk. So I don't know if I'll actually record anything, because it's gonna mirror pretty much his. Like, I'm gonna probably use his plans, just make it a little bigger. So, I don't know. I don't know how that's defined yet, but I would say my ultimate goal for the next year is to have 24 new videos. And speaking of that, I know in 2 episodes ago I talked about doing a DIY staining video. In fact, it's still coming. I'm fact, I was working on the editing of it tonight. It's so hard right now with, the holidays to really get down, especially having commissions. I felt like I couldn't take the time out for myself while I still had commissions to get done. But now that all those are wrapping up and I'm wrapping up Christmas builds, or now that you're listening to it, Christmas builds have been wrapped up. I'm going to start with that, and that's probably going to be the first project, and I'm going to try to knock it out so I can have a dedicated office space. And I feel like if I have a dedicated office space in a completely separate room of the house, that I will be more inclined to do work in that space instead of taking my laptop to the living room or the kitchen, the dining room table. I will have a space that I can go and really concentrate on video editing and recording, and I really want to get just the space set up so when we come to record the podcast, I'm ready to go. Like, I don't have to set up my computer, plug in my microphone, and get everything adjusted. So I feel like having a more dedicated space is going to help me reach that goal of 24 videos. And I know a lot of them's probably going to be shop related, for the pure fact of that's what I want to do. I mean, I can't make a lot of permanent fixtures like cabinets and stuff because the reality is I'm more than likely moving in 7 months. But I can make things like lathe stands and like outfeed tables, workbench, those type of things. Stuff. Yeah, things that I can move off of the wall, especially like clamp racks, stuff like that I can move. And if you haven't seen one of my videos, I have a whole shop wall, 14 feet, I think, of commercially grade or commercially available cabinets that I'd purchased. I think I spent $1,000 to $1,500 on all these cabinets that have made 2 different moves with me. They moved from Virginia, and then they moved from another house to where I'm currently at now. And I think I'm going to sell those off when I move and start fresh wherever I get. So I want to have enough storage solutions that can get me by until I can get some cabinets or something else built when I get to a new shop. But I do know a lot of those are going to lie, and we talked about it, OCD. A lot of those tool stands, like my planer cart, stuff like that, the meat and potatoes of it is going to be built from the Kreg universal workbench kits or universal stand kits, just because that's what my router table's made out of, and you can build cabinets inside of those. And so that's what's going to happen, at least for my planer cart and my lathe stand. Probably not going to build one for the drill press because I want to move to a floor standing drill press, hopefully within the year. But at least those videos should be able to be done fairly quickly, because building a cabinet inside of something that's already framed out is generally pretty easy. I just got to figure out exactly what I want. So,
well, I think your goal of 24 videos for the year is a very achievable goal, because having the extra week, and I speak from experience, having that extra week of time to finish out a project that you don't want to break up into two videos comes in quite handy. So I do think that is a lot more achievable than doing one a week for, say, like 8 or 9 months. So yeah, doing every other week gives you a lot more leeway time to get it completed.
Yeah, and I think where I'm at now, and I mentioned it to you earlier, is my computer is, let's see, it's definitely a Mac. I'm a Mac user all around. Woo-hoo! iPhones, iPods, iWatch, I got it all.
We're fanboys.
But my computer is MacBook Pro, early 2011. It's starting to slow down, and I'm going to upgrade the memory at least from 4 to 8 gigabytes. And hopefully that will speed it up enough to get me by, but I do want to get a standalone desktop that, like an iMac, and it's definitely got to be a 27-inch, especially, why not? So I want to get that just so I have a dedicated computer for video editing, recording the podcast, just doing all that kind of work, and it makes it feel more like an office and gives me less of a temptation to pick up my computer and move it to go work. Mm-hmm. So there's definitely going to be a lot of moving parts come January 5th when I get back from vacation, to try to figure out the best way for me to move forward over the next 6 to 7 months. And so there's probably going to be less tool purchase and less tool purchase for the shops and more purchases for the office until I get myself in a space that I can just put all the other distractions aside.
Well, me being a individual that is going to be building an office fairly soon in the next year, I will be watching with great anticipation of your projects coming out in the near future. So, very cool. Well, that does it for my questions. We actually have another one that was sent to us on, I believe it was your Facebook page for Countryside Workshop.
Yeah, and if y'all don't know, I have an actual Facebook group, and that's where this question was asked.
Right. And it actually came from Jim Davis. When we posted send us questions, he was one of the first to respond. And his question to Jeremy is, how do you price your pins that you turn on your lathe?
Okay. It's kind of a hard question to answer because I don't really have a formula, more than trial and error. Especially, I have a formula definitely for bigger items, or items that take a lot longer to make. But a pin, if you know what you're doing, you can be start and done with a pin in 30 minutes. And his question was, he either just got started or had just got started again after a period of downtime, making pins again, and he's sold some to a few friends and family, but other people I think are asking for them. And he's heard two different things. He's heard, things like price of materials times 3 should equal what you sell it for. And I don't necessarily agree with that, because if you don't know really what you're looking at on a pin kit, a lot of the pins that I sell for upwards of $25 to $35, the pin kit itself costs $1.75. You're looking at, if you buy a dedicated blank and you don't make one yourself, you're looking anywhere between $1 and $4 or $5. So you're saying, let's say I have $5 invested in this pin, that's $15. That may be a good starting point. And that's definitely where I started, selling for $15, and I made a few. But you start to realize that people are paying $25 and $35, $100 for pins. So I just really play trial and error. I kind of look at Etsy. I look at the different Facebook groups. I talk to the different Facebook groups, especially there's one pin turning Facebook group, and kind of see what people are selling theirs for, the similar style. And I kind of gauge from there. I'm like, okay, well, they're selling them for $35. Let me go a little lower. Let me start at like 25 and see. And if I sell a whole bunch quickly at 25, then I'm going to increase that price, $5 or $10, until I'm still selling them fairly quickly, but not so fast that I can't keep up with it. So Jim, your question's really a hard one to answer because I don't have a formula specifically for pins. My formula for larger items is time, how many hours times the labor charge of my shop, plus materials, plus 20% for waste, and disposable items like glue and paper towels, stuff like that. And and then maybe a delivery fee depending on where they're at. But you're looking at a pin that takes 30 minutes. So let's just say my commission time's $15 an hour. So I spent 30 minutes, so that's $7.50. On top of my parts, those are $5 an hour at $12 plus 20% of that $5. I don't even know. Let's call it $1. Right? So now you're floating around $13. You're less than your parts times 3. But then you go with a kit that's $15. That's times 3. You're floating around 45. Depending on the style, they can go for that, but a lot of times they're going to go for more than that. Without giving you a number, I would say ask around, see what people are selling comparable styles for, look at Etsy, and play around with that. Start with a few dollars lower than what they're doing. You have to go a little lower than what they're selling for because you're starting out in the market versus they're established in the market. So you need to have a slightly lower price to attract those buyers to go with you versus somebody else that's established. And then slowly increase your price until you find that it's a comfortable spot. To me, making a pin for $15 is just not worth my time to get out there and make it for 30 minutes. Because really when it comes out to it, I'm out there for at least an hour because I got to clean up the mess I made after, got to put everything back away. So Jim, just kind of trial and error, do your research. I wouldn't put a formula behind it just because it's such a small item that takes very quickly to make.
And he's really not exaggerating about people paying $100 for a pin, because I've priced some pins before that were turned, and they were using some pretty fancy mechanisms, and they were selling anywhere between $75 and $100 a pin. It was ridiculous, but I mean, it's not an exaggeration. They do sell for that amount.
Yeah, well, in fact, I sell one pretty. I wouldn't say on a regular basis, but I do sell one. The pin costs me $35 to make, and I sell them for $95, $75 to $95. And it's a bolt action pin.
Oh yeah, I love those.
But I use like an inlay blank. It's a laser engraved inlay blank that's all different colors, extremely complicated design. But the blank cost me alone $20 to $25, and the pin kit cost me $13 to $15. But those are high rollers, and they sell for $75 to $95. So,
well, that's just going to be one of those things that you just kind of have to do your homework on, Jim. Is just go and price some pins. Just find some established dealers. Go to Etsy, go to eBay, Amazon, things like that, and just price them out and see what kind of the average is and what kind of pin they're actually selling, and then kind of equate it to how long it will take you to do as well in that same instance, and then just kind of go from there. But like Jeremy said, a very good point is you're going to have to probably price yourself a little bit lower to become more competitive to start driving people in your direction. Yeah. So very, very cool.
All right, well, this is going to be an excerpt. This is recorded after we recorded this episode. We had a couple more questions from Paul Meyette. He asked, what is your favorite meal? I'm going to have to say my favorite meal is called pizza bread. And that's something that my wife learned to make from her grandma. It's basically you take like bread dough, smash it out, and fill it with pizza ingredients, and then roll it up and bake it. It's probably my favorite thing to eat. And it's like an all-day event trying to cook it because you have to let the bread rise and then smash it and cook it. And the second question was, what is your favorite beer? My favorite beer is going to be Shiner Black, but pretty much anything in the line of the Shiner family, Shiner Bock, Shiner Blonde, most of their seasonal beers, pretty much any of those are going to be my favorite to drink. But if I were to pick one, it's going to be Shiner Black. And it's a local beer to Texas. In fact, we got the town named after it called Shiner, Texas. If you're ever in the area, you should look it up. And if you can't pick it up at your local supermarket, try like your World Market, and you should be able to get the original Shiner Bach.
Well, that does it for the questions for Jeremy. We might be doing one of these episodes or two of these episodes again in the future. We might combine both of us together. So if you guys have any more questions that you want to have us answer, you can send those to the Woodshop 101 podcast at gmail.com email, or you can leave us comments on the YouTube channel as well. So I really like that. That was cool. Hopefully those questions were complicated enough for you there, Jeremy.
Yeah, some of them were. They definitely make me think. So,
well, we started a new segment here recently, and it's basically a product or a tool recommendation for this specific week. And we did this on the Ask Questions for Me, and I guess we're going to do it again. So, Jeremy, what is your recommendation for a tool or product?
I'm going to recommend Titebond II wood glue. I've used Elmer's wood glue. I've used Gorilla wood glue. Never really had a problem with either one, but I've definitely never had a problem with Titebond II. I will be honest. I first started Titebond II because that's what all the other woodworkers, Mark Spagnolo, David Marks, that's what everybody was using. Mm-hmm. So that's why I started with it. But now I've started using Titebond II, Titebond III. I wouldn't go any other way. In fact, Titebond II, if it's a project leaving my shop, it's been used Titebond II or Titebond III, depending on if it's going to be outside or not. But generally, Titebond II is the wood glue that I use for every project that leaves my shop.
And what is the difference between the Titebond 2 and 3?
So there's Titebond, it has various types of glue, but generally they're 1, 2, and 3 is their most common. Type 1 is like your white glue, your school glue, like it has no water resistance. It's made for all indoor projects. Type 2 is actually FDA approved so you can use it for cutting boards and things like that. It has some water resistance to it, so it's good for cutting boards that aren't going to be submerged or have a lot of outside exposure to the elements. Titebond 3 is going to be your typically what they call your outdoor wood glue. You're going to want to use that on benches and swings and different things that are going to be exposed day in and day out to the elements outside. And 1 and 2, they dry just like a regular white or yellow glue would. Your Titebond 3 actually dries dark. So if you're going to use it, just know that you're probably going to have a black line between the two pieces of wood that you're going to use.
That's a good tip. Another one is that some people don't know what kind of open times. Are they compared from 1, 2, and 3? Which one has the shortest open time for glue ups, and which one has the longest?
You put me on the spot, but I think they're all relatively the same. If you're wanting to get into your more open time, they're all pretty quick working time. If you need something that's more extended, you need to go with our Titebond Extend, and that gives you it's a little more watered down, gives you more time to work with it. Without jumping on and looking it up, I don't know numbers right offhand, but I do know it's very comparable to your other wood glues on the market. That it doesn't have a tremendous amount of open time, and it really depends on where you're at. I have a little more open time than what Drew probably is because of my humidity down here. But if you go out to where Mark is in Phoenix, that glue is going to dry a whole lot faster because it just sucks that moisture out, and that's how that wood glue works. Is the moisture gets sucked out of or it evaporates out of that glue, and that's what creates that bond. So,
very cool. Well, I tend to use the Titebond 2 and 3 myself. I can't remember if the Titebond 3 is also FDA approved for cutting boards or not.
it is.
Okay.
In fact, I want to say just about all of Titebond's glue is FDA approved.
And that's one reason I think I used it on my cutting board at home was it was FDA approved and waterproof because I tend to use my cutting boards quite often. And it's not that I submerge them in water, but they do get exposed to that element quite often when you're using it to cut like tomatoes and then onions and things like that are pretty juicy vegetables and things. And then you go to wash it later with water. Don't use soap. But when you go to clean it off with water, it's exposed to that element constantly. So I think that's one reason why I chose the 3 on my cutting board. But like you said, that black line is pretty evident. So you got to make sure that your glue lines are really, really tight. So very, very good recommendation. I agree with that, but that was not my recommendation for this week. Mine is more than likely going to be one of my plans, and I'm not doing this just because it's me. It's mainly because the use that I get out of this particular jig is just an immense amount of organization and use and efficiency that you don't get when you buy it first out of the package. And I'm talking about my Kreg jig cabinet that I made several videos back. It's actually one of my more popular videos, so it's pretty easy to find. But I ended up making plans for it, which are pretty good sellers. Everybody is really interested in wanting to build one. And whenever I use it on a project, I find myself being able to get the job done a lot quicker because everything is right at your fingertips. I don't have to go hunting for the drill bits to drive the screws or find the particular screw in a tiny box that's located somewhere in my shop around all the other screws. And even the drill bits and the jig itself, it's all right there. And it works in more ways than one, especially if the jig is not exactly compatible with the job that you're using it on. You can actually take the jig out without having to unscrew it and take it to a bigger project. So I am recommending the plans that are on my website for that particular jig because that is something that has been so invaluable to me in the shop as of late.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I definitely liked it. And, when I saw it, I initially wanted to build it. However, I have the K5 system, and it comes with those outfeed wings, and I really like those outfeed wings, and they got some good storage in there. So I haven't quite figured out what I'm going to do with mine, but it will eventually have something, maybe a more permanent setup, kind of like what you have. So I don't know how I'm going to do it, but yours definitely has inspiration on how I'm going to do mine.
Very cool.
So, all right, guys. Well, if you'd like your question answered on air, or you just want to hang out with us after the show, you can become a patron of our Patreon campaign. Just head over to www.patreon.com/woodshop101. If a recurring donation doesn't suit your needs, then go to the website, go to the show notes for episode number 23, and there will be 3 different options for some small monetary one-time donations. And if you don't want to donate at all, we highly encourage you to head to iTunes and give us a 5-star ranking, because every single ranking that we get helps us reach a greater audience. And ultimately, that's what we want. We want to get rankings from you guys so we're easily found by other woodworkers or other people that are interested in hearing from us.
Yeah, and another thing, those donations, even though they're small amounts and they're maybe just a one-time, they go a long way to help keep this show running by helping pay for things like the website maintenance and the voicemail and things of that nature that require monetary amounts to help fund those particular items to keep going. even though it's $3 or even just a $1 donation, things like that just go a long way to help us out.
Yeah.
So if you guys are interested in getting a hold of us individually, I will go ahead and give you my information really quick. You can find me on several different social media platforms, but most of all my website, which is rhwoodshop.com. There you can find my contact page with my email, which is drewshort@rhwoodshop.com. You can also find me on Facebook by searching for Rockin' H Woodshop, as well as Instagram and Twitter. Those are sign-ons for RH Woodshop, and I'm also on Pinterest. So I've got multiple methods to find me and contact me in many different ways. So, Jeremy, what about yourself?
You can find me at my website, www.countrysideworkshop.com. There I have contact me page. I think I even have my phone number listed there because I do use it for business. I got snail mail address, Facebook, email, you name it, it's there. You can contact me that way.
Very good. And if you want to reach us together on the show or for the show, you can email us at woodshop101podcast@gmail.com. You can also find us at woodshop101podcast.com/listen. There you can stream our episodes from any device. We are also on YouTube, as well as Facebook and Twitter. And we tend to monitor those quite often. So if you guys want to ask us a question, you can leave a comment or suggestion on any one of those platforms, and we'll be able to find it. And also, we have a voicemail that you can call using any cell phone or home-based phone. It doesn't even have to be a computer. And that area code is 409. Number is 234-3959. And if it is a question that you would like to have answered on the air, we can actually play that voicemail on the air and answer it for you. So that's pretty much it on how to contact us. So from Jeremy and myself, we guys want to thank you for the questions that you have sent us over the past 2 episodes. This has been a really fun episode or episodes to do. And like I said, we hope to do some more in the future if we have any more personal questions like this that you guys want answered.
Yeah. And one thing before we take off out of here, we just want to wish you guys a Happy New Year and a belated Merry Christmas, and more Happy Holidays. And just hope you guys are safe. We'll see you fresh in January.
All right. Little bitty sign off here. 1, 2, 3. Boom.